Hi, my name's Daniel, this is Build Theory, and this is my car. My car is a 1999 Honda Civic, and over the past 7 years, I've given it a complete overhaul. I'm talking engine, transmission, interior, and exterior, with lots of wiring too. Taking a car that was destined for the junkyard and giving it a new lease on life. But thanks to the passing of time, the intense Texas heat, and my novice skills, modifications that looked great then now look like crap. I have a plan, which I'll get more into later, that will allow me to correct all of the mistakes on the car and give it a modern kick too when it's all finished. But before we get to the future plans, we need to go over what I've done to it in the past. In late 2018, I was looking for a beginner project car and I came across this car posted online for $300 as non-running with a bad engine. I hardly knew anything about car repair besides oil changes and some other basic things, so naturally I bought it after talking the guy down to $150. After towing the car home, I jump-started it to see if it would start at all. It did, and this is the sound I was greeted with. Clearly, no good. I began the rebuild process by watching YouTube videos on how to disassemble and rebuild an engine, and once I was somewhat educated, I disassembled the engine piece by piece in the parking lot and carried it up to the second story of my apartment where I had built a small workbench and an engine stand at the foot of my bed. Over the next month, I cleaned all the parts in my bathroom's temporary parts cleaning plastic shoebox, had the block machined and prepped, bought new parts including a 99-cent crankshaft, and the cheapest engine internals I could find off eBay. And then I performed the final assembly in my dad's garage. After the engine was finished and reinstalled, I took the car for a test drive, and not even 20 miles later, a big bright orange check engine light came on. I was beyond terrified. Had I already ruined my new engine? I thought so. After carefully driving to an auto parts store, I had them scan for codes, but the only code that came up was for torque converter excessive slipping. Great, that's not my fault, but it's another problem I'll have to solve. I was never a fan of the 4-speed automatic transmission, so it's gone. In its place, there's a 5-speed manual transmission for which I had to drive 3 hours from College Station to San Antonio, find and remove it and all of the associated bits and pieces from a donor car, and then drive another 3 hours home. Upon further inspection, I noticed some noise in the input shaft bearing, so back on my bedroom workbench it goes for all new seals and bearings. But not before I cleaned the case housing at a coin car wash. The center tunnel was crudely cut and drilled to mount the shifter linkage, wires for the reverse lights were run to the engine bay, the old transmission was then removed and hurled into a dumpster. And then after that, all the new stuff was installed. Check engine light fixed. Several months later, I went to the junkyard and cut a center tunnel section out of a Civic with the manual transmission, and used rivets along with seam sealer to attach it to my car, which then provided the watertight seal and allowed everything to sit in the correct location. The exterior was in really rough shape. Although there was no body damage, besides some small door dings, parts of the roof looked like the moon, and there was almost no clear coat on any part of the body. You could wipe your hand across the car and it would be green afterwards because the base coat was starting to powder. Something needed to be done, and so done I did. I co-opted my parents' single-car garage for a week and set to work tearing the whole exterior apart, every piece to be painted separately. To complete my vision for the exterior, I purchased several things. A new front and rear bumper, because I figured the paint needed to be sanded all the way down to plastic due to its condition, and I didn't want to sand all that, besides the bumpers were cheap anyways. I found a nice looking spoiler at the junkyard I thought would make the car look less round in the rear, and I found a period styled Type R lip on eBay. I wanted to choose a paint color that was modern, looked good in the car, and looked good in the sun. After much internal debating, I finally settled on Ford's Blue Jeans Metallic, often found on their trucks. However, I severely miscalculated how much paint I would need to purchase and ended up needing to order a second gallon halfway through painting the car. Automotive paint is mixed to order, and one of my cans wasn't mixed the same as the other, which led to this. This could have been avoided if I bought both cans at the same time and mixed them together before starting. But hey, it's not too bad for my first time painting. Well, except for the orange peeliest roof you've ever seen, and paint that's too thin to polish in some areas. But still, pretty good. As far as wheels go, I originally planned on painting the factory steel wheels silver and putting steel center caps off of early CR-Vs onto them. However, on one trip to the local junkyard, a wheel in the scrap bin caught my eye. It looked like a Honda wheel, but it was hard to tell because the face was covered in thick layers of plasti dip, until I turned it over and saw Honda cast into the spoke. I really liked the design of the wheel, even with all the plasti dip, and after finding the other 3 wheels in the trash bin, I bought them, and it was out the door for $80. Some Google image searching revealed the wheels are from a 2002 Civic Si. Sweet! The next few days were spent in the shower with paint stripping gel, trying to remove the plasti dip. It had baked onto the wheel and wouldn't peel or scrape off normally. Once clean of crap, I was finally able to fill the chips and paint them with a nice metallic silver. The factory interior color was a mix of brownish gray and beige. I'm sure it was nice and modern when Honda designed it in the mid-90s. However, 25 years later, I thought it looked dated and it was worn out, so I decided to make some improvements. I got these BMW seats and had new leather made up for them. I also welded brackets onto the seat rails so the seats could bolt into the factory locations and move normally. The dashboard, door panels, and plastic trim pieces were shipped from Canada. The dark gray color was available on coupes and hatchbacks here in the US, but not on sedans. These pieces are from a 1999 Acura EL sedan. It's literally the same car as mine, but with factory leather seats and a squinty Honda badge on the front. Before the dashboard was installed, I also upholstered the floor with some nice thick black carpet with the mass backing for added sound deadening. I wanted to add more seat-colored leather in the interior, and I figured the best place to put it would be on the door panels, replacing the fabric. The leather was laid out, pressed into place to mark out the outline of the panel, and then cut out. The door panel was masked for spray adhesive, and the leather and panel were then sprayed with contact adhesive. After the glue was no longer sticky to the touch on either piece, I could then carefully align and press the leather down to the panel while making sure the edges were properly tucked in. The headliner now has the roof console from a 2019 Type R with a gray Homelink from an Odyssey, which I painted black. To accommodate the larger roof console size versus the non-existent one it had before, the headliner board needed to be modified. A papier-mâché crafts project ensued, and I was able to make it work. And honestly, once it was upholstered, you couldn't even tell it didn't come that way from the factory. The roof, floor, and doors are lined with a butyl sound deadener. The roof also has neoprene closed-cell insulation for radiant heat blocking. I think it makes a difference, but it's hard to tell when parts of the car are always being removed and reinstalled. It messes with the acoustics. The passenger grab handles were painted black and leather wrapped. A Prelude steering wheel was installed, and I recently finished a custom leather shift boot and parking brake boot. The boot design was based off a BMW E46 parking brake boot due to its similar geometry with the Civic. It was the best way I found to get a single-piece boot and handle assembly installed after the center console is already in. Over time, my lack of skills combined with the intense heat and UV rays of Texas summers have done quite a number on the car, both interior and a bit of the exterior. Headlights are cloudy, grills faded, and the badge is missing.
Holy jumping Caesar's catfish! My H has been stolen! Now, that's how people know it's a Honda! What's the point of having a Honda if you can't show it off?
Numerous paint defects, damaged panels, wheels paint chipping and cracked, carpet installed incorrectly, improper leather for skin contact used on the seats, and various other defects or oversights. But none of that matters, as it's changing. Everything is changing. This will no longer be just a 1999 Civic. This will be a fusion of 1999 Civic and 2024 Civic, blending both modern technology and classic design into one elegant car. No stone will be left unturned, no feature will be left unfeatured. So, here's the plan. I'm going to transplant the entire electrical system from a 2022 to 2024 Civic Sport Touring, the fanciest version, into my current Civic. I mean everything. Climate control, full LCD cluster, Honda sensing system, front cross-traffic alert, rear blind spot monitor, 12-speaker Bose system with 9-inch touchscreen radio, electronic power steering, push-button start, and much, much more. After an extended period of neglect, the exterior will be revitalized along with an interior overhaul and reupholstering of almost everything. Many parts of the car will have to be redesigned and manufactured in a way that not only looks original, but is also durable and functional. This is going to be an immense task for just one person to accomplish, especially when you consider the fact that I have no college degree or certification of any kind. And as far as being a mechanic and doing work like this, I'm currently a brake technician by trade, and I'm almost entirely self-taught, besides a few things my dad's taught me over the years. Thanks, Dad! But besides that, I know basically nothing about doing this type of work. I believe the most complex part of the project will be the dashboard modification and integration of all the relevant components. So I'll start with that to get it out of the way. The original center dashboard is very simple and is made so the few center pieces are located in one relatively small housing, which then bolts into the dashboard core support as one piece. For this project, numerous parts will need to be attached to the dashboard, and it's become obvious that the dashboard will have to be considerably altered in order to be able to accept such a large number of individual components, especially since the new pieces are way bigger than even the mounting bezel that housed the old components. So I'll need to model all of my new parts in CAD so that I can digitally represent them when designing a new dashboard. However, these parts are all asymmetrical and not flat. With strange curves that all need to be perfectly replicated, it's nearly impossible to get accurate measurements needed for a CAD model. And also, I don't know CAD. Except for Tinkercad, the preschool of CAD. So I've boiled it down to 3 main problems at the moment. I'll need a way to accurately get those parts modeled onto my computer, and then I'll need to find a way to take those parts and create a modified dashboard for them to mount onto. I'll also need to learn the skills of a professional CAD modeler. I think I have a solution for those first 2 problems. If this project sounds interesting to you, then be sure to follow along by subscribing and turning on notifications so you know when the next episode comes out. I'd like to thank you very much for watching this first of many videos in the series. Until then, see you next time.